Hi, my little Turo nerds. My name is Saimah and welcome to Saimah's Experience. On this channel, I talk all things Turo as they happen. I've been a host for 7 years, still hosting till this day, and things are always changing. The marketplace is always changing. And so these are all the latest and greatest tips, tricks, and trends that I discover. So the other day, actually last week in my powerhost.club community, I had somebody ask a really good question. I thought I would make a video about it. And he asked me, is this the beginning of the end for Turo? And that is based on the assumption that a lot of people are experiencing a slowdown in many of the markets, which is unusual for summertime. And so this has been a big topic of discussion lately. So I'm going to break down some market insights based on my own research that I did last week. What I did was I went ahead and I analyzed probably 300 plus listings in all different markets across the United States to see if we can identify any patterns and figure out what's going on, who's experiencing slowdowns, and why this might be. Now, as we already talked about before, of course, there's the broader economic conditions that are out of our hands, but it does affect our business, such as inflation, which is cost of goods and services going up for people. So that means any extra income that people have that they would spend on leisurely things like traveling and maybe getting an extra special car during their vacation, well, those budgets are really starting to size down. Because as we know, gas is expensive, groceries are expensive, housing costs have gone up. So all of these things really affect a person's budget. And especially in summertime where we're used to people spending money and traveling and renting our amazing cars off the platform. So that's why we're feeling the effects of a lot of this stuff. Now it's interesting because I myself was planning to travel next month. I was thinking about going to New York. And when we looked up tickets, it was crazy expensive. It was almost $1,200 to fly economy from California to New York, which was absolutely insane, right? So you can see, directly in your day-to-day life where things have really gone up in price. And of course, for a flight like that, not really worth it. So I opted to not take that trip because I felt like I wasn't getting the most value for my money. So I think a lot of people are really experiencing that. So that's kind of the broader scope of things. But when we zoom into our Turo world, you always have to analyze what patterns and trends we see in markets so that we can adjust our strategies accordingly, adjust our listings and price points accordingly so that you remain competitive in the hard times when markets aren't going exactly the way that we would have hoped. Now, the caveat being this, in every market and in every car category, there's always outliers, right? And there's always little pockets in the country that do better than others. And those are determined by other factors as well, right? There's so many variables that go into this. There are certain destinations that have now become the hub of a lot of events, a lot of conferences, a lot of concerts, things like that, right? Which are drawing more people than they usually would. So of course, naturally, you'll see an uptick in rentals in those areas, and maybe those areas won't experience as much of a slowdown. So you always have to keep in mind that there are those outliers, and you can't kind of gain sort of a blanket understanding that applies to everyone in every car, but we can get a general idea. So let me go over the findings that I came to see when I analyzed 300 plus listings last week all across the US, and the patterns that I found and how you can take this information, apply it to your listings, and hopefully create a bump in the number of rentals that you're getting for your cars. So before I get into that, I would be so grateful if you showed your support by subscribing to this channel. Of course, if you find this information helpful, it definitely helps me out as well. And not only that, but as I go through this video, I would love to hear from you guys about what market you're in, and are you experiencing a slowdown in summer or not, or is business as usual? And then finally, I'm going to end this video with some real-time comments that have come in about people from other Turo hosts in different markets and about how they are doing in terms of business. So, that way you can kind of see how your community is performing. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, after looking at 300 plus listings, one of the main things that I noticed almost across the board, right? Whether you're in Southern California, in Phoenix, Arizona, Denver, Colorado, Miami, Florida, right? Any number of these markets you look at, one thing I noticed is that in almost every single market, the cars that ranked at the very top were mostly economical cars. Now, if you have been looking at the Turo market, even in the last 6 months, one thing that you've always seen pretty consistently over the last few years is that anytime you do a search, Teslas typically rank at the very top. What was interesting about the search that I did is that I saw almost no Teslas ranking at the top and all economical cars that were in almost a very specific price point. So that to me sort of indicates that perhaps the system recognizes that people are in a price sensitive market. They are looking for cars that are fuel efficient and cost effective. Hence, these more economical cars ranking at the top. And I'm telling you, this is really unusual from the typical search that we're used to seeing, especially during summer. Now, what are those price points that I was seeing rank at the top? That is going to be point number 2. So some of the price points that really stood out to me across the board were cars that were really priced in that $35 to $45 category, right? So we're seeing a lot of your Nissans, your Ford Focuses, your Fiats, your Hondas, things like that really ranking at the top and falling into those price points. So it's a very interesting finding. And then if you just expand that price point a little bit more in terms of what's working, it went off into anything that was $50 per day, $55 per day. These cars were still getting a lot of bookings. Now, why do I bring up which cars are ranking on top and what their price points were? The reason why I bring that up is because if you look at the booking calendars for these cars, these were the categories and price points that I noticed that had a lot of advanced bookings and their June calendars were really booked up. And I mean, to me personally, it makes a lot of sense, right? Cost of things have gone up. People are probably price sensitive. And if the most important stuff when it comes to your travel is airfare, hotel, food, and car, the type of car you're in doesn't necessarily matter as much as some of the other things, right? The other things maybe being more priority over the type of car that you're in. Yes, you need a car, and luckily for us, Uber and Lyft rates have really gone up. So oftentimes now renting a car makes more sense than Ubering around. So that's good for us, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people are targeting specific type of cars that may deliver a certain type of experience, which is what I think Turo is really known for. But that is also what makes the platform great, is that yes, you do have this wide variety of options that you can choose from, things that will give you an experience or things that are just, EV friendly or more economical or just more budget friendly, if you will. So that is why I looked at that, is I wanted to see, obviously there are rentals out there to be had, and demand might be low, but who is getting the rentals? So it tended to be people who had cars in that category and within those price points. Now, another interesting finding that I found during my research is that I noticed that after certain price points, after certain day rates in different markets, you would see where rentals really begin to fall off, right? Which is another indication that we are in a price sensitive market. So what do I mean by that? Now, here in Orange County, again, just purely based on my own research of looking at all these listings, I noticed that anything that was priced like $89 per day or below had bookings, and these cars were continuing to get bookings, and they had advanced bookings throughout June as well. But as soon as you went above that $89 mark and up into the $100 range, 110, 115, 120, and so on, you really began to see that those calendars really didn't have very many bookings for the month, right? Again, indicating that people are somewhat price sensitive. So my advice to you guys is this: what you want to do in your area is go do research and figure out what people are priced at, what's ranking, and who's getting these bookings. Then you want to pull from that information and adjust your listings accordingly. Now, for me personally, what that meant for me is, hey, okay, I need to drop my prices a little bit because obviously we're in a price sensitive market. And for me personally right now, I'd rather have some rentals versus no rentals. And the only issue that I have with this whole scenario, and unfortunately we don't really have a choice, is that it becomes an extremely competitive market where people really begin to slash prices. It becomes super competitive. People with, nicer cars, maybe brand name cars, begin to lower their pricing as much as they possibly can. So then you begin competing with the more economical range cars, and it becomes a very cutthroat environment, if you will. So it's kind of a very interesting landscape to be in, and one that we will navigate together. But if you find yourself stuck, honestly, if everything else is optimized in your listings, everything from great photos, a great listing description, you're offering a fair amount of miles, and that's still not working, and you've packed in as much value as you possibly can into your listing, then you really have to resort to lowering prices so that you remain competitive when demand is low and we're in a very price sensitive market. So hopefully you guys find this helpful. I know many of you guys have reached out to me that things are slow. And on a more positive note, if I'm to just share my personal candid opinion with you guys, just from doing this for so many years and seeing markets kind of go up and down, I really do think that July, August are going to be very busy. And hopefully we kind of return to our summer levels of doing business across the board, and not just for people that are in certain pockets or have certain types of cars. So hopefully that does happen to be the case as we move forward. You never know, but that's just sort of like the instinct that I have, but we will have to see. So, a good indication of that is if you begin to see a lot of advanced bookings coming in for those months. So once again, I'm super curious to know, what market are you in? What type of advanced bookings are you seeing? And how did the month of June go for you? So I would love to know if you guys can share, and that'll give the overall community, I think a good consensus. So now let's go read some of the comments that I got from other Turo hosts on how their markets are doing. And maybe this will give you, a sense of comfort knowing how some of your peers are doing. Okay, so I got my laptop up and open here, and let's read some of the comments that have come in from Turo hosts. And this is literally just from a few minutes ago, so this is very fresh information. I haven't really read through these, so we're going to do this live and go through this and see how some people are doing. And by the way, definitely comment below and let me know, in this type of market, whether you're doing good or if it's slowed down for you, is there anything you feel like you want to learn more about to better your Turo business, to improve your listings? Let me know, and I'm more than happy to make content on it. Okay, so first comment is, I don't know how to say the username, but I'm just gonna read the comment, which this subscriber is saying that it's been very slow in Raleigh, which is, I think, North Carolina, if I remember correctly. And then we have Brandon from San Diego, which is Southern California, saying that business is solid, so holding well. And then J Infinite TV commented that in South Florida, it's a bit slow in June, which is kind of surprising because even during the pandemic, every vehicle was booked at least 26 days a month on average. So yeah, that is crazy. A lot of my South Florida hosts have been commenting that it has really slowed down there. Now, I know that during this time of year in Florida, it does get summers are extremely hot, so people tend to travel outside of Florida during this time, very similar to Phoenix. But still, even with that, they are usually a bit busier than what they're seeing now. Yasmin commented that June just started to pick up after April and May, which were extremely slow months. And Pierre from California, oh no, sorry, that wasn't a response. So Leo is saying that he's been with Turo since 2016. He's had a fleet of EVs that have been quite slow, but he unfortunately plans to exit very soon from Turo. We're sorry to see you go, but you said it was a great ride while it lasted. Okay, and another comment from South Carolina saying that it was really slow from Erica. Thanks for chiming in. Let's see here. Okay, I am Ander, I think is the username. So you're in Long Island, New York, which as we know, New York is going to be opening up at the end of June, on June 27th. So you're saying that you already have your car listed and you're very curious to see how it turns out. I'm curious to know how many of you guys have your cars pre-listed for New York, but you have a 2016 BMW 428i listed as of right now. Oh my gosh, I used to have that same car. I think mine was a 2018 though. Great car. But you think that you're anticipating it might be absolutely abused when it does get rented. You know what? You would be surprised. People, for the most part, are really quite good. As long as you vet them and you give your car in good condition to them, people really tend to reciprocate that, especially if you make it a point to mention like, hey, you know, I take really great care of my car. It's clean, it's detailed, and you know, want you to have great experience. People really tend to reciprocate that when you kind of say it in that way. Corral, you're saying it's slower than usual for the summer, but still much better than the winter. But I'm not sure what market you're in. So if you do comment below, make sure you let us know what area you're in. Max Marks, you said there's definitely a slowdown. Chelsea, you're saying that Arizona summers are death for every tourist business. So I'm very interested in how other areas are doing. So a couple of hosts from the Phoenix area in my Power Host Club community were saying that June is unusually slow. Yes, it's slow because of the extreme heat, but it's especially slow than what they're normally used to seeing in summer. So nonetheless, still a slowdown. Okay, and then JP516, both of your cars didn't rent and you lowered your prices, but I can't complain because I've been doing pretty good for the most part. So that's good. So I really hope and I anticipate that this is probably temporary, and hopefully in July and August we should see things pick up. But if I see any more feedback come in, I will definitely share it with you guys. Just one more comment came in. AC84, Miami is way too slow, too sad. Oh, don't be sad for long, you guys. I am certain that things should get better, hopefully, as we move further into the year. Now, what happens after summer season still remains to be seen, because again, we have kind of broader economic conditions at hand that is affecting this. So this isn't really central to Turo per se. So we'll see, we'll keep an eye on it. And you know, the best thing is to analyze your business on a daily, if not at bare minimum, weekly basis so that you can adjust. The worst thing you can do is not pay attention to your listings, let a month or two go by, and all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, business was so slow. I didn't get any bookings these last couple months. Because if you can adjust in real time based on what's happening in your market, then you can definitely snatch up some of those rentals that are out there, right? There is still demand. You just want to make sure that you are priced correctly and that you have enough value built into your listing so that when somebody does see your car, they are going to buy, right? They have that reason to choose you over somewhere else. And on a final note, the last observation that I just remembered that I saw when looking at a lot of these listings all throughout the US this past week was that a lot of people are priced out of the market, right? So a lot of people are still used to the higher summer pricing and assuming that that is business as usual, but unfortunately, not everyone is experiencing that. So a lot of you guys are pricing yourselves a bit too high to where people are not willing to buy at that price. So make sure you take a look at those price points, adjust your discounts if you need to. I'm not a huge fan of discounting and lowering prices, but it really depends on what your goals are. Like if you need to make that money and pay that car note, then what other choice do you have? So we can definitely share more tips and tricks on what else you can do maybe in another video. But again, I would love to hear from you guys and your thoughts on what you're experiencing. So I will talk to you guys down in the comments section below. Hang in there. We will get through it together. Don't worry. I will share everything I possibly can to help you guys out. So let me know what you need help with, and I'll keep putting out the content to help you guys with that stuff. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button and do subscribe and show your support. I so greatly appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys down in the comment section below. Take care.